Hey everyone, brace yourself now. Warning, this might be a little bit shocking to some of you, but hey, it's a headline article out of, guess who? CBC News. Yep, you guessed it. And once again, it's putting forth and presenting the dialogue, the narrative that's all against, people that they would perceive on their political opposing team, right? Listen to this one. This is funny though. It's like, do you not realize that, like, you're a Canadian publication and you're putting forth this shit? I guess you rely on Canadians being ignorant, but well, thanks to people like myself, or the fact that we live just a few degrees north of this place called the United States where this is happening and what militias are all about, they might learn some things, or they may have learned some things, right? Or the fact that we live in the information age. It's, I guess, because they function in their own echo chamber, they don't realize that, oh, look, there's this whole world of information that Canadians are privy to that is outside of our own particular narrative or dialogue, right? News alert, CBC. Yes, we live in the information age. No, you don't have the dominant narrative anymore. Sorry, hate to burst your bubble. Headline, CBC News World. Militias, a chilling present at rallies, but few signs of violence so far. So militias, you know what a militia is? Actually, that's how the United States was set up in that whole thing with the Second Amendment, right? So that militias, or just, militia is just a bunch of people, right? A bunch of Americans, a bunch of patriots that have sworn to defend their Constitution. That's what an oath keeper is. The oath that they take is to defend the Constitution, the very fundamental premise of what the United States is all about. We're that whole foundation of what the country is based on, and all the freedoms that ensued as a result of that came as a result of their Constitution. So oath keepers and these militias are people that are willing to defend the laws and the nature of how that country come to fruition and the freedoms that they espoused within that Constitution. So to prevent or to present these people as anything but just good patriots, you're already doing a grave disservice to what the whole premise of individual liberty entails. Subportion of this headline: in addition to militias, civil group oath keepers a frequent presence at events. But they're even admitting, but there's no violence. They're oath keepers, right? A lot of these people would probably be, and they're nationalists, of course they're predominantly military men, or even people in law enforcement. But these are, they've chose to uphold the Constitution of the very country that they live in, that they were born and raised in. They're armed, trained in the use of their weapons, and with a duty, they say, to uphold the U.S. Constitution. Right? If you think you're going to turn a whole lot of Americans, maybe some of these communists, right? Maybe these idiots, but if you think you're going to turn Americans against the Oath Keepers, then, like I say, good luck with that one, CBC. Armed groups of private citizens have increasingly been taken on a security function at public events where the possibility of violent protests exists, including the past weekend at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, VA, Virginia. Down there what's been going on? We've seen violent clashes in the past between the left and the right. That's nothing new, says Daryl Johnson, who spent years as a Department of Homeland Security analysis. The new wrinkle, he says, is guys walking around in military garb with guns. You think that's the police, but in reality, it's the local militia, or the 3%ers. Christian Yingling of the Lightfoot Militia of Pennsylvania told the Washington Post his was one of the groups patrolling the Unite the Right rally. Yingling, in a subsequent Facebook video post, said that his group, the Lightfoot Militia from New York, and other militias were in Virginia under one centralized command. He said the Lightfoot Militia do not support, condone, or in any way align ourselves with white supremacy and racist dialogue. We were there to support First Amendment rights. We were there to keep the peace. Sounds good to me, right? And apparently CBC can't even this fucking bullshit narrative they put forth. Apparently you can't say nothing bad about them because they didn't cause any violence themselves, right? They were there to uphold the peace and defend the Constitution of the United States. Reports from most witnesses indicated they didn't exacerbate hostilities that existed between already antagonistic elements that included neo-Nazi groups on the right and so-called Antifa groups on the left. Not so-called Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Not so-called Antifa. Fuck with your political bias, you piece of shit. Who the fuck is this person that's posting this? I gotta say the name. Let's name names because they like to fucking dox and name fucking names. Let's name names here. Chris Ayerfida, Amy Cooter, sociologist at the University of Vanderbilt, whose fieldwork includes time spent with Michigan militia members, say so-called constitutional militias most of the time are very well prepared to stay out of trouble and not draw negative attention to the militia as a whole. But the gun control advocacy group Every Town for Gun Safety chastised the militias for making the job of law enforcement more difficult in Charlottesville and provided an atmosphere of intimidation and fear. That view was shared by witness Robert Armigall, who said their presence on 4th Street was a chilling sight. So, okay, I'm not even going to go any further, all right? I'll post a link to this article in the description of this video below. But once you get into this is just picking someone. I mean, think about it if you're a media personality. You could pick anyone that you talk to on the street and use whatever narrative or dialogue you want to put forth and present your particular ideology or your preference or how you want to spin the narrative in regards to the kind of media or the news you put forth. So we all know that's easily done. It can be easily skewed because like it's just picking whatever you fucking whatever dialogue or whatever narrative you want to run with, right? Myself, I try to stay above that fray. So like I say, I'll post a link to this article in the description of this video below so you can continue on and read it. But you know, the people in the militia, now I'm against statism. All right, I'm not a fan of statism by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're going to have a country that's about anything that has to do with particular ideology or principles or social or economic methods or means to keep an entire population in check and have that work seamlessly, then yeah, having people that are willing to defend and swear an oath to that Constitution, yeah, it's kind of important, right? Because like I say, this guy's getting paid through the CBC. So he very much enjoys, you know, the state being able to protect his ability to use that forced wealth redistribution model to get his paycheck. He just has a particular preference for one side of the political spectrum, for one team instead of the other team, even though both teams are just one wing and the other wing of the same bird, right? He don't like the other wing of that bird, but he couldn't fly without that bird, could he? Skinny Libertarian. And I love liberty.